So yeah, I went and saw that movie Blindspotting the other day. It was really cool because I went to the movie with absolutely no expectations. Hadn't seen a trailer for it. Hadn't seen a commercial for it. The only thing, in fact, I knew about it was the day before I saw a sign for it on the TV screen at the gym. That's really all I knew about it. I had no idea what I was walking into, which is really how I like to watch a movie. That way, I have no expectations, no predetermined judgments or anything like that. So it was really cool. Blind Spotting was a very complicated movie, very good writing. I think is some pretty new writers. I guess the two writers are actually friends that grew up in real life. So a lot of the themes in this movie, I think, probably come from their own experience growing up as friends together. It's interesting because this movie is both a comedy and a social commentary at the same time, and it pulls it off actually for pretty freaking well. One of the main themes in the movie, or really the name of the movie, the main theme of the movie is the idea that we have these ways of seeing other people or other things that we can only see it one way. Like we see it one way when really it might be another way. So where that comes from is when you see that vase with the two faces that point at each other, and they talk about that in the movie. So you have the vase. You can either see the vase or you see the two faces. I'm sure you guys know the picture I'm talking about. One of the problems I had with the movie is that when they're explaining the vase, the whole idea behind blind spotting, they said you can only see one at a time. You can only see the vase or the face. And that really struck me as odd because I actually see both. I can see both at simultaneously, and I figured everybody else can too. But then it's interesting because maybe other people can't. It's interesting for me because that's something that I feel like makes me unique in some way, drives other people crazy, is that I've always been able to see more than one side. Doesn't mean I agree with the other side, but I can understand where they're coming from, and it usually isn't always as bad as you might think. That's what we like to do. Like someone that doesn't agree with us, we've entered this really mode in society right now where we demonize that person. They're evil because they have this opinion that doesn't agree with ours, and we start to make other connections. Well, that person likes this. They also like this. If that person, if they voted for a certain person and they believe in this, and this, which a lot of times isn't really true. People are much more complicated than that. So I thought that was really fascinating. The movie deals with a lot of themes. It takes place in Oakland. Deals with things like police violence. It's not a protest movie, however. Deals with things again. The movie deals with perceptions of people. You see a person walking down the street, you automatically see a certain thing. Maybe you see a guy in a cowboy hat, and boots on, and you see, maybe you see a racist person, right? Or maybe that's not what you see. Maybe you see someone who's nice and hardworking. It kind of depends on your point of view, really, your paradigm, if you will. So, it's true that things often are not what they are. Well, another issue that I had with the movie was that it dealt a lot with hipsters that were moving into Oakland and taking over this neighborhoods that had been predominantly black neighborhoods for probably the last 3 or 4 decades. Which it is a fact that in a lot of these cities in California, like say like South Central LA, 50 years ago, this was a predominantly white neighborhood. It was a nice neighborhood. All the white people moved away in what was known as the Great White Flight. They moved to the suburbs, and these cities became crime-ridden with gangs. Now, that's not the only thing that happened. What also happened is the factories that drew the people from the South out there for jobs, they moved to other places, often China, Asia, other places. So the jobs that had drawn these people were gone, and so now you have a whole new socioeconomic problem in these areas. So now we have these so-called hipsters, predominantly white people, I assume, that are moving into these once bad neighborhoods or whatever you want to call them in Oakland, taking them over and inserting their own culture, really, without any regard to the people that have been there for the last 30 or 40 years. It's an interesting take on it. I thought, in many ways, the hipsters were unfairly judged. We're talking about perception of people, but the movie just, kind of made the hipsters look like a bunch of jerks. And then I realized that was really pretty cleverly done. That actually they did show that this is just their perception, and in some ways, the movie, it didn't just beat you in the head with it. You kind of had to really look for it. It was subtle, but it kind of showed you that well, there was another viewpoint to that as well. And it wasn't until probably a couple of days later that I let the movie really ruminate in my head, that I realized really how intelligently the movie was written in that regard. A lot of things that didn't just come out and explain to you. You had to use your brain a little bit. But every character in the movie was very complicated in that they had layers, in that there was two different ways of seeing them. You could see them one way, or you could see them the other. I thought that was absolutely genius, which is something that's really a problem, is we define each other by these different categories that we've given to each other. If you're say a black person, you're supposed to listen to this type of music, you're supposed to dress a certain way, you're supposed to like certain things, you're supposed to hang out with certain people, you're supposed to talk a certain way, and that is absurd. If it's like that, then we can't be free. If we're defining each other by not just the color of our skin, but the neighborhoods we come from, our accent, the color of our eyes, the type of car we drive, people can't be free like that. That's people, to be free, you need to be whatever the hell you want to be. That's what freedom is to be able to be what it is that you want to be, obviously within reason. If you want to be a serial killer, that's probably going to be a problem, right? So, yeah, it was definitely a really good movie. I suggest everyone go see it. Had a lot of different layers to it. I didn't give any real spoilers, I don't believe, but yeah, check it out. When you watch it, listen to what I'm saying. Every character in the movie has two different ways you can look at them, which is really, I guess, every person like that. I can really relate to it in a lot of ways, because I feel the same way. I feel like people, for whatever reason, always have this judgment of me. They want to pigeonhole me a certain way. They think I'm a certain way, and then I don't know how many times in my life I've met people and get to know them. They say, "Man, you are nothing like I thought you were when I first met you." So I just think that's very fascinating, and we're all like that to a certain degree. People think certain things about all of us that aren't true. You got to take time to get to know people. You got to take time to understand people, how they tick. Everybody's a little bit different. But yeah, definitely a really cool movie. So check it out sometime. It's probably one of the best movies I've seen all year. It was pretty good. Anyway, we'll talk to you later.